Hello all, welcome to Cyber Platter. This is a video on ISC Square CCSP, that is Certified Cloud Security Professional, to help you prepare for the exam. Today we will cover a portion of Domain 3. So this is our agenda for today. Domain 3, that is Cloud Platform and Infrastructure Security, covers 17% of the CCSP exam. Today we will understand cloud infrastructure components, that is the section 3.1 of domain 3. The first topic is shared responsibility model. Before we discuss about the cloud infrastructure, let's briefly talk about shared responsibility model from the cloud provider's perspective. Security in the cloud environment follows the shared responsibility model where vendors and customers have different responsibilities depending upon the category of cloud service. In the infrastructure as a service, the cloud service provider is not responsible for patching customers' VM operating systems. The provider is not responsible for installing and managing security endpoint solutions. The cloud service provider is not responsible for managing access lists in the customer's environment. The provider is not responsible for the compliance of settings the customer chooses to use in the infrastructure as a service model. Now, platform as a service model. In this, the provider is not responsible for ensuring the customer follows the security coding practices, and the provider is not responsible for the compliance of the customer's code. In software as a service model, the provider is not responsible for the compliance with how the customer uses the software, and the provider is not responsible for what type of data the customer enters into the software. Cloud infrastructure. Cloud infrastructure includes all the tools and components needed to build a cloud. It is made up of many parts, each playing its own important role. Cloud infrastructure consists of the data centers and the hardware that runs in them, including compute, storage, and networking hardware, and then the virtualization software and a management layer. We will discuss about each of these components today. The first one is physical components. Remember, the cloud data still runs on actual hardware located in actual buildings. For a single one of these buildings, that is, the data centers can house up to hundreds of thousands of servers, switches, and other hardware components. In the NIST 853, the Physical and Environmental Protection Control family provides good guidance in this area. A few of the items covered here are physical access, authorization, and control. That is, least privilege access to physical resources should be enforced. Access control for transmission medium. That is, security safeguards for power and network cables to prevent damage, disruption, tampering, and theft. Physical access monitoring. This talks about the capability to investigate and respond to physical security incidents. Monitoring can include physical access logs and security cameras that monitor data centers, ingress and egress points. Emergency power. Cloud computing is all about availability, and emergency power plays a very vital role in this. Fire and water damage protection. This is something that is self-explanatory. The next component of cloud infrastructure is network and communications. The purpose of the network is to provide control communication between services and clients. Managing the physical network, this is completely the responsibility of the cloud service provider. The key role that you should know here is cloud carrier. Cloud carrier is an intermediary that provides connectivity and transport of cloud services between the cloud service providers and the cloud service customers. Let's discuss some of the key network functionalities. The first one is address allocation. This is the process of assigning one or multiple IP addresses to a cloud resource. This can be static or dynamic. DHCP, that is the Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, should be considered here. Access control, it is the mechanism that is used to grant or deny access to a resource. Bandwidth allocation, the process of sharing network resources fairly between multiple users that share the cloud network is bandwidth allocation. You can imagine how important this can be for multi-tenant environments. Rate limiting, the ability to control the amount of traffic sent or received is rate limiting. It can be used to control the number of API requests made within a specific time period. API is Application Programming Interface. Filtering. Filtering is the process of selectively allowing or denying traffic or access to cloud resources. That is, for example, closing ports or blocking specified protocols. Routing. Routing is the ability to direct the flow of traffic between endpoints based on selecting the best paths. The next concept is software defined networking. SDN. Software defined networking allows for networking to be completely programmable and the underlying hardware is simply commodity hardware. Why do we need software defined networking? What is the difference between SDN and traditional networking? Software defined networking has three layers: application layer, control layer, and data layer. In traditional networking, there is no control layer. In traditional networking, two servers need to communicate. Suppose, say that two servers need to communicate. The first server will send packets to a network device, say for example a router. Now the router will use its own routing table details to forward or route the packets to the other computer. This is a distributed system, that is, each network device uses its own brain to route the packets. This distributed system becomes very difficult to manage when the number of servers increases. Also, the network device does not have programmability. So, the rules or path how to route the packets cannot be changed dynamically as per our wish. So, to overcome these drawbacks in the traditional network, software defined networking can be used. In SDN, all the network devices are connected to the control layer, and the control layer manages the network devices. The control plane gets its instructions from the application plane. The application plane can consist of load balancer, traffic engineering, traffic forwarding, and so on. If the application plane needs load balancing function, the control plane gets it done. The control plane is where the SDN magic happens. It's here the SDNs logically optimize network traffic, thus allowing cloud providers to allocate network resources in an agile, flexible, and highly scalable manner. All the network devices are in the data plane. This separation between the control and data planes also provide cloud administrators with a single interface to manage thousands of network devices without needing to individually log in and manually manage those devices. This also saves a lot of time. The next component of cloud infrastructure is compute. As the term cloud computing suggests, compute power is a big deal for cloud consumers. Compute resources take data, process it, and show you the output of the processing. Just like in traditional data center models, cloud-based computing comes down to compute, that is the number of CPUs, and processing, that is the amount of memory. What is unique in cloud environment is that these compute resources must be managed and allocated among multiple customers. The use of reservations, limits, shares offers the ability to share the resources in an efficient manner. A reservation guarantees that a cloud customer has access to a minimum amount of cloud computing resources, either CPU or RAM or both. Compute reservations are used to make sure that your virtual machines have the right amount of computing and processing power when they need it. Reservations are an important feature in cloud environments because they can help protect consumers or customers against denial of service due to other resource intensive tenants. A limit acts just the opposite of reservation and sets a maximum amount of cloud computing resources that can be used. In cloud environment, limits can be set either for a virtual machine or for a consumer's compute utilization as a whole. Limits can help customers ensure that they don't use more resources than they have budgeted for, and they can also help ensure that a single cloud tenant does not use a tremendous amount of resources at the harm of other tenants. When a limit is allowed to adjust to temporary and changing conditions within the cloud environment, it is referred to as borrowing. A share is a prioritization and weighting system within a cloud environment that says the order of specific applications or customers to receive additional resources when requested or when there is a resource contention. Resource contention is when there are too many resources and not enough resources available to supply all those requests. Customers with a high share value will receive a larger portion of available resources during this period. The next component of cloud infrastructure is virtualization. What is virtualization? Why should we even consider virtualization instead of the traditional model? In the traditional data center, consider a server. You have the hardware, that is the physical component. On top of that, you have the operating system, and the operating system has its own services, file storage, ports, input, output, and so on. On this, we have many applications that are built. The applications are dependent on the same file storage services, ports, IOs, etc. So what happens in virtualization environment is that you have physical servers, that is the hardware. On top of that, you have operating system. But additionally, you have a virtualization software. Hypervisors, that is the virtualization software sitting on top of the operating system. And then we have virtual machines, and each virtual machine has its own services, file storage, input, output, etc. And usually a VM is dedicated to a single application. So this application now has its own dedicated resources. Like this, we can build multiple virtual machines on the virtualization software. So basically, virtualization is the emulation of physical machines. It is the process of creating software instances of actual hardware. Multi-tenancy or resource pooling would not exist if there was no virtualization. Let's discuss some of the benefits of virtualization. Scalability. Virtualized environments are designed to grow as the demand grows. Instead of buying new hardware, we can simply spin up additional virtual instances. Virtualization allows for faster resource provisioning. It is much quicker and easier to spin up virtualized hardware from a console than it is to physically boot up multiple pieces of hardware. Reduce downtime. Restoring or redeploying physical hardware takes a lot of time, especially at scale. Failover for virtualized resources can happen much more quickly, which means the systems remain up and running longer. Avoids vendor lock in. Virtualization abstracts software from hardware, meaning the virtualized resources are more portable than their physical counterparts. Vendor lock-in is a situation in which a customer is unable to leave, migrate, or transfer from one cloud service provider to another due to situations like using proprietary format or unfavorable contractual agreements. Saves time and money. Virtualized resources can be easily centrally managed, reducing the need for personnel and equipment to maintain the infrastructure. Less hardware usually means less money. Also, sharing resources enables more efficient use of the hardware. The next concept is hypervisor. Hypervisor is a software, firmware, or hardware that makes a guest operating system think it is running directly on physical hardware. Hypervisor allows for running multiple guests on the same hardware. Hypervisor manages requests by virtual machines to access the physical hardware resources of the host, abstracting it and allowing the virtual machine to behave as if it were an independent machine. The hypervisor uses Virtual Machine Manager (VMM) instance to create a one-to-one association with each virtual machine being managed, allowing the hypervisor to securely manage the VM. The hypervisor is responsible for enforcing isolation in virtualized environment. There are two types of hypervisor, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 hypervisor is also known as bare metal hypervisor as it runs directly on the hardware, that is the host machine, and it runs often as a bootable software. Type 2 hypervisor runs on the host's operating system. Type 2 hypervisor is completely dependent on the host operating system for its operations. Type 2 hypervisors have large attack surface area because of the extra host operating system layer. So an attacker can attack the hypervisor, the underlying OS, and the machines running on the hypervisor in type 2 hypervisor. But in type 1 hypervisor, the attacks are restricted to the hypervisor and the machine. Operating systems are also more complex than hypervisors, creating the increased potential for vulnerabilities. Hence, type 1 hypervisor is more secure than type 2 hypervisor. Storage. Let's talk about the next component of cloud infrastructure, that is the storage. Storage typically begins with hard disk drives HDD or solid state drives SSD, depending on the performance needed by a particular customer or workload. For reliability purposes, disk drives are often grouped to provide redundancy. The typical approach is RAID, that is, redundant array of inexpensive disks, which is actually a group of techniques. RAID groups have redundant disks configured so that their disk controller can still retrieve the data when one of the disks fails. On their own, these storage units have no file system. Instead, a file system is created and applied by the guest operating system whenever a tenant deploys a virtual machine. Object storage. It is less expensive as you pay only for what you use. Object storage has unique address identifier and metadata attached to it, which helps in better indexing. This in turn helps in enforcing data policy, and this is very helpful in data loss prevention and information rights management solutions. Object storage is a flat file system which is accessed through object handler or descriptor. It has a key value. Object storage is file storage that is not attached to any particular virtual machine or application and is kept on a separate system that is accessed via APIs or web interfaces. You cannot install or run programs on object storage. It is only limited to uploading, storing, and manipulating the files. Object storage allows to store files as individual objects but cannot be directly mounted by an operating system. Usually, VM images are stored in object storage. Object storage is ideal for backups, archives, audio or video files, images, documents, web pages, and so on. The key issue associated with object storage is that data consistency is achieved only eventually. Whenever you update a file, you may have to wait until the change is propagated to all the replicas before requests return the latest version. This makes object storage unsuitable for data that changes frequently. It is best for static objects. The next one is volume storage. Volume storage is nothing but virtual drives. It is allocated to a VM and used as if it were a regular hard drive attached to that machine. Hypervisor takes a chunk of the physical storage infrastructure and virtually assigns it to a VM. There are two types of volume storage: file storage and block storage. Block storage uses iSCSI protocol. Remember, iSCSI does not natively support encryption. Here you can install and run the programs other than just uploading, storing, and editing the files. Because you can install and run the programs, it is more susceptible to malware. When volume storage is allocated to a host, it is called LUN, logical unit. Let's talk about another component of cloud infrastructure, that is the management plane. Management plane is the interface and set of functions that supports and enables control of a cloud environment and the hosts within it. The management plane is typically restricted to highly privileged cloud service providers admins, with a limited subset of capabilities externalized to customer cloud admins. The cloud providers expose the management plane to customers through a set of APIs, command line interface, or web portals. All of these must have strict access controls. Management plane is the cloud admin's primary centralized interface to connect with the cloud metastructure and configure their environment. A few of the key roles of management plane is to create virtual machines, start, stop, or pause VMs and services, and also allow to provision the desired resources like CPU, memory, storage. When the hypervisor supports it, the management plane also controls live migration of virtual machine instances. Management plane provides a consolidated view under single point of access into your cloud environment. Hence, it is a single point of failure. So, also, the management plane must be tightly locked down with access granted to the fewest number of people with absolute need for such permissions. In addition, all management plane access should closely be monitored, logged, and regularly audited for misuse. Despite the increased risk, management plane offers security benefits by providing a holistic view of all the cloud resources. We can examine all our cloud assets to know what exactly is running and how it is configured at any given point. This level of transparency is hard to achieve in traditional data centers, which often require the use of multiple tools, interfaces, and processes to identify and manage its assets. The management plane software typically runs on its own set of servers and has dedicated connectivity to the physical machines under management. Cloud environment mostly uses virtualization, cloud-specific logical configurations, and software-defined networking, that is the SDN. The management plane manages the cloud data center elements such as hardware, logical configurations, and networking elements through a centralized management and control interface. Management plane can be used in physical areas to apply, detect, and enforce hardware baseline configurations. In logical areas, it can be used to schedule tasks, optimize resource allocation, maintain and update software, and virtualized hardware. In networking, all the network management and admin tasks can be done by the management plane. Direct physical procedures such as connecting Cables to machines are not included here for obvious reasons. This is the end of this video. If it helped you in any way, please like, share and subscribe our videos. We will see you in the next video, and thank you very much for watching, guys. Bye bye.